every Embraer aircraft ever built. One of these was built with a Kevlar-armored cockpit, specifically to hunt armed drug cartels under jungle canopies, shooting down illicit aircraft over the Amazon for a fraction of the cost of a fighter jet. There were 9 iconic aircraft families that transformed this Brazilian manufacturer into a global aerospace giant. This is every single one. In 1968, the EMB-110 Bandeirante entered service as a twin-turboprop light transport and regional commuter that literally created an aerospace company out of thin air. Designed by French aeronautical engineer Max Holste under the supervision of Brazil's state-sponsored Aerospace Research Institute, this 19-seat aircraft was so immediately successful that the Brazilian government had to establish Embraer as a state-owned factory just to mass-produce it. Powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney Canada PT6A turboprop engines producing 750 shaft horsepower each, the Bandeirante cruised at 260 miles per hour across a 1,200-mile operational range while taking off from rugged, unpaved airstrips across the interior of South America. In my opinion, the Bandeirante is one of the smartest foundation aircraft ever built, proving that a developing nation could bypass glamorous supersonic prestige projects and build an unpretentious, highly profitable utility plane that regional airlines around the world actually wanted to buy. But while the Bandeirante proved Brazil could assemble reliable metal airframes, local agricultural workers needed a crop duster, so specialized that it ended up making aviation fuel history. In 1970, the EMB-202 Ipanema took flight as a dedicated agricultural crop dusting and utility aircraft built to survive the harsh chemical and environmental demands of South American farming. What makes this low-wing monoplane a legendary milestone is that it became the very first series production aircraft in aviation history to be officially certified to fly on pure ethanol biofuel derived from Brazilian sugarcane, completely eliminating its dependence on expensive imported aviation gasoline. Driven by a single Lycoming IO 540 6-cylinder piston engine, generating 320 horsepower, it operates at treetop dusting speeds of 110 miles per hour while carrying over 260 gallons of agricultural fertilizer or pesticides inside its reinforced hopper. To me, the Ipanema is a brilliant piece of agricultural engineering, an ultra-rugged workhorse that remains in continuous production over 50 years later, because it solves a specific domestic challenge better than any foreign import ever could. Yet crop-dusting sugarcane fields wouldn't make Embraer an international powerhouse, which drove engineers in the early 1980s to set their sights on the booming North American commuter airline market. In 1983, the EMB-120 Brasilia was deployed as a 30-seat pressurized regional commuter turboprop engineered to connect smaller regional airports with major airline hubs. It became such an immediate sensation among American regional carriers like SkyWest and Atlantic Southeast Airlines that at its commercial peak, more than 30 different international airlines were operating fleets of Brasilias simultaneously across the globe. Powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney Canada PW118 turboprop engines producing 1,800 shaft horsepower each, it achieved a fast cruising speed of 343 miles per hour at an operational ceiling of 30,000 feet, allowing passengers to fly above turbulent weather. If you ask me, the Brasilia was the exact airplane that put Embraer on the global commercial map, a sleek, beautifully pressurized turboprop that trained an entire generation of regional airline pilots and paved the way for modern hub-and-spoke flight networks. And speaking of commercial aircraft that reshaped airline travel around the world, if you are enjoying this breakdown of aviation history, the next complete manufacturer lineup is already scripted and ready for production, so hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss it. Now, while commercial turboprops were filling company bank accounts, the Brazilian Air Force demanded a frontline subsonic attack jet capable of surviving heavily defended airspace. In 1984, the AMX International AMX, designated in Brazilian service as the A-1, Entered service as a subsonic ground attack and battlefield interdiction jet developed in a joint venture with Italian manufacturers Alenia and Air Macchi. Because the aircraft was built specifically for dangerous, low-level bombing runs, engineers designed it with redundant electrical and hydraulic systems separated physically throughout the airframe to ensure the jet could survive direct hits from 30mm anti-aircraft cannon fire and still return home. Equipped with a single Rolls-Royce Spey non-afterburning turbofan engine producing 11,030 pounds of thrust, it hits a maximum level speed of 658 miles per hour, while carrying 8,380 pounds of bombs, rockets, and reconnaissance pods across an 1,100-mile combat radius. My verdict on the AMX is that it was Brazil's crucial graduate-level course in modern military aerospace engineering, teaching Embraer how to integrate complex digital avionics, radar systems, and precision munitions into a rugged combat airframe. But just as Embraer mastered jet engine integration on military strike fighters, a devastating economic crisis in the early 1990s pushed the newly privatized company to the edge of bankruptcy, until they rolled the dice on a 50-seat regional jet. In 1995, the ERJ-145 took flight as a 50-seat twin-engine regional jet airliner engineered to replace slow, noisy turboprops on commuter routes across North America and Europe. Because Embraer was strapped for cash during development, engineers ingeniously kept tooling costs low by reusing the nose and cross-section geometry of the older EMB-120 Brasilia, mounting two high-bypass turbofan engines directly on the rear fuselage to create a plane that cost millions less than its rival, the Bombardier CRJ. Driven by two Rolls-Royce AE3007 turbofan engines producing up to 8,917 pounds of thrust each, it cruises at Mach 0.78, or 518 miles per hour, at altitudes up to 37,000 feet. I believe the ERJ-145 is the absolute savior of Embraer as a company. A simple, tough-as-nails regional jet that single-handedly rescued the manufacturer from financial ruin and revolutionized feeder routes across the United States. Now ask yourself a question. Once you prove you can build 50-seat regional jets that airlines love, how do you break the commercial duopoly of Boeing and Airbus without getting crushed by them? In 2002, the E-Jet family, led by the E-170 and E-190 series, arrived as a clean-sheet lineup of narrow-body crossover airliners carrying between 70 and 114 passengers. Instead of shrinking a large airliner or stretching a cramped regional tube, Embraer designed a revolutionary double-bubble fuselage cross-section that eliminated middle seats entirely, offering 4 abreast seating where every single passenger on board gets either a window or an aisle. Powered by twin General Electric CF34-10E turbofan engines, generating 20,000 pounds of thrust each on the E190 model, it reaches Mach 0.82 across a transcontinental range of 2,800 miles, while burning significantly less fuel than older mainline jets. To me, the E-Jet family is Embraer's greatest commercial triumph, a passenger-favorite masterpiece that completely dominated the 70 to 100-seat airline market and forced Airbus to eventually buy out Bombardier's C-Series program just to compete. Which brings us to the question I want you to answer today. Looking at regional airliner design, would you rather fly on a 4-abreast Embraer E175 with 0 middle seats, or on a larger Boeing 737 where you might get stuck in the middle seat for 3 hours? Drop your answer in the comments below right now. But dominating regional airlines wasn't enough for Embraer's leadership. In the mid-2000s, they decided to take on Cessna and Gulfstream in the cutthroat world of private executive jets. In 2008, the Phenom 300 entered service as a clean-sheet light executive business jet, engineered to fly faster and farther than any competing aircraft in its class. It has officially been the single best-selling light business jet in the entire world for over 12 consecutive years, becoming the absolute default aircraft for fractional ownership giants like NetJets and FlexJet. Equipped with 2 Pratt & Whitney Canada PW535E1 turbofan engines producing 3,478 pounds of thrust each. It hits a high cruising speed of 534 miles per hour with a 2,300-mile range while operating from short, 3,200-foot general aviation runways. If you ask me, the Phenom 300 is the most ergonomically perfect light business jet ever manufactured, combining airline-grade maintenance reliability with a BMW-designed cabin that makes older business jets feel hopelessly outdated. Yet while private jets transported corporate executives in pressurized luxury, the Brazilian Air Force needed a tactical transport heavy enough to challenge the American C-130 Hercules on rough dirt runways. In 2015, the C-390 Millennium was deployed as a twin-engine jet-powered medium tactical military transport and aerial refueling tanker built to haul heavy armor into combat zones. Embraer explicitly designed the Millennium to operate from the exact same unpaved airfield footprints as the turboprop C-130 Hercules, but because it is powered by high-bypass turbofans, it can transport 57,000 pounds of cargo, helicopters, or troops nearly 150 miles per hour faster than its American rival. Driven by two International Aero engines V2500 turbofan engines producing 31,330 pounds of thrust each, it achieves a top speed of 541 miles per hour and can be refueled in mid-air or act as a tanker itself using wing-mounted hose and drogue refueling pods. My verdict on the C-390 Millennium is that it is the single most formidable threat to Boeing and Lockheed Martin's military transport monopoly, an incredibly agile jet freighter that is already winning NATO contracts across Europe because it completes missions in half the time. Which brings us to our final entry, the armored, lethal jungle warrior that takes us all the way back to the counter-insurgency mystery of our opening story. In 1999, the EMB 314 Super Tucano, designated by the United States military as the A-29, took to the skies as a turboprop light attack, counter-insurgency, and advanced pilot training aircraft. Built specifically to operate in the humid, tropical heat of the Amazon basin from primitive dirt strips, its cockpit is reinforced with Kevlar armor plate to protect pilots from ground fire while hunting armed drug-trafficking aircraft under dense jungle canopies. Powered by a single Pratt & Whitney Canada PT6A68C turboprop engine, producing 1,600 shaft horsepower, it reaches 367 miles per hour, while carrying 3,300 pounds of precision laser-guided bombs, Hellfire missiles, and two internal 12.7mm heavy machine guns integrated into the wings. The Super Tucano is without question the greatest counter-insurgency aircraft of the 21st century, a brutally effective turboprop that delivers lethal precision strike capability for roughly 1/10 the operating cost of a modern fighter jet. And that Kevlar-armored cockpit and relentless low-cost efficiency is exactly why the aircraft I opened with, the EMB 314 Super Tucano, was purchased by the United States military to fight insurgents across Afghanistan and the Middle East. If you want to see which aerospace dynasty we uncover next, the script is already in production, so hit subscribe right now, and I'll see you in the next hangar.